Hey guys, Duke Delayed here for the Intimacy Liberation Army. Today we're talking about feeling like you don't belong in a social environment. I got this question from one of my students last week. We were doing a one-on-one, and he was talking about not being able to feel like he had the right energy for the environment around him. He didn't feel like he fit in. While fitting in is not necessarily going to be your primary concern, because we talk here on this channel more about authenticity, more about being yourself, more about showing what you have to offer into the world in ways that are received well by the people around you. Fitting in is important when it comes to determining the rule sets to a new environment. If you go out and you're in a nightclub and you kind of don't know how the social rules work there, it becomes difficult to break into the social groups, the social hierarchy there. But largely, that stuff is it's less important than just getting out there and doing it. Especially guys who are beginners, who don't do a lot of approaching in general. Being afraid of groups and cliques and social circle faux pas or whatever is usually just an excuse not to go out and approach. And generally, if you can, like, we have a bar here, it's called the Tipsy Goat, and it's very, very clicked up. Like, the people at the pool table are all friends, and the people at the tables next to them are all friends with themselves, and the people around the fire pits are like the friends with themselves. And it's kind of hard to break into the group. And if you screw up around the people in the group, then they all kind of look at each other and agree to kind of cut you out. And it's a real thing, like clickiness and weird social rules that you don't understand is a real thing. But chances are, if you go in, you start talking to people, you start to calibrate quickly to how people are responding to you, and it's a non-issue after a little while. So I'm going to give you 5 things to focus on when you go out and try to fit in with a group. But just keep in mind that new social environments are new, and once you get used to them, it's not that big of a deal. So the tips I'm going to give you are relatively general, and then we can dive into deep psychological personality type stuff later on as I exhaust this more newbie level content. So feeling like you belong in a social environment is a challenging process. It can be, because mostly because it's multivariate. You don't know why most of the time you don't feel like you fit in. Like, you don't know why you don't get the inside jokes. You don't know why. There's a bunch of different variables involved. And so, like, if you knew, like, oh, okay, well, I'm not wearing the right clothes for this environment, and people are judging me based on how I'm dressing, then you can go fix that, come back, and then everybody lets you in, right? Like, if it was simple as it's this one thing, and perhaps I should change things around there, and then eventually I can get accepted, then it's pretty systematic. You can just be like, okay, I'm going to change my dress. I'm going to change the subjects that I talk about. I'm going to, somebody here is the gatekeeper, and as long as I get their rapport, then I'm going to get rapport with the rest of the group. Like, that's pretty simple. But generally, when you go out into a new environment, you don't know. You don't have a lot of cues or clues from the environment to tell you, okay, this is how I should act in order to not stand out, or this is how I should act to stand out in a way that's building rapport rather than losing it. And like I said, these fears are kind of dumb. Once you spend a little time in the environment, you kind of adapt, you calibrate. Like, it's not really that big of a deal, but a lot of guys use it as an excuse to not approach or not go to that place. Or like, I don't like clicky bars. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to go to this place that I'm used to, but then I have the same options all the time, right? So for those guys who are using this as an excuse for not feeling comfortable in a social environment, as an excuse to not go out, not to approach, not to make new friends, not to test the waters and see what's happening. I'm going to give you 5 tips here. First tip: seek out opportunities to connect with others. The biggest problem a new environment carries for a lot of my guys, or a lot of the clients that ask me questions like this, the biggest problem is that they can't put themselves in motion. They can't force themselves to do anything. They don't feel motivated to approach. They don't feel motivated to tell stories and to open up and be loud and whatever. There's something to be said, quite a bit to be said actually, about just doing you, no matter what the environment is. And the way to do that is to get yourself into social interaction as fast as possible. You know, if you give yourself opportunities to connect with others, that means like go out and seek out connection points. You can talk to somebody about whatever it is. You can use observational openers. You can start telling stories. You could ask them stupid questions like, "What are you guys celebrating? What's going on here tonight? You guys know anything in the after party?" Like all of those types of like opener type questions work really, really well. And even when they don't work, the fact that you're willing to deliver them gives a certain vibe to you and gives you a certain freedom, gives a certain, uh, what's the word? Vibe. Yeah, basically vibe. And if you don't do that, a lot of my guys, they'll go to a place that's new for them, and then they'll just kind of go to the bathroom, grab a drink, sit on the wall, watch, look for, oh, these girls aren't hot enough, or oh, these people are too clicked off and they're not receptive to me. Oh, it's really cold and I forgot to bring my jacket, or oh, they're only doing karaoke here and I don't sing, or whatever it is. They come up with an excuse and they find themselves an excuse to leave, but they didn't interact with anybody when they got in there, which shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to testing and getting better at your social skills, because you're not seeking out the opportunities to connect, so you're not making any connections. And you can do it kind of you can set up, like, if you know that there's a karaoke going on at the bar that you're going to, then definitely pick a song before you go there, and then you can kind of sing along and be a part of that group. If there's if it's a drag brunch or whatever, like, come with things to talk about your opinions on people expressing themselves and being creative, and have good things to say about that. Like, you can kind of think through, okay, what would I talk about at a place like this, and then make a plan and go and then do it. It's important to seek out new opportunities, because most of the time, new opportunities aren't going to seek you out. I've got a lot of guys with egos on my calls that are like, "Oh man, if I'm not going to go approach girls, or I'm not going to go talk to her because, if she doesn't want to come talk to me, then I don't really want to. I don't want her to be in my life." It's like, okay, great, dude, but like, it's still going to be in your best interest to make the first move most of the time, because what you're challenging here is your fear and your closed offness. You're not challenging whether or not she's going to be receptive. Like, you're not going out and practicing other people being receptive to you. You're going out and practicing, I'm going to do it even though I feel a little apprehensive about it. I'm going to go be authentic even though I might be self-conscious of what I'm about to say. Like, those are the things that you're practicing. So go out and practice those things, and you're going to have a lot better time when you start to get over those fears, start to get over that discomfort. You're able to kind of meld in and mesh with the environment. I remember I was in Tel Aviv, and we were doing a workshop with one of the guys, and the day game was fine. Like, we went out to the beach and we talked to a bunch of super hot Israeli girls, and they were friendly enough, and we met some IDF girls, and they were showing us their M16s, and it was cool. But when we got to the nighttime, all the clubs on the beach are like controlled by like Russian mob. So when we went up there, I tried to get in, and the guy wouldn't let me in because I was American, and so I ended up coming around the side, tipping one of the other guys, and then the other guy had to have a talk with the other. It was like weird. But when I got in there, it was super new for me. Like, I've been to clubs all over the world. I've been to beach parties all over the place. Found myself, in deep corners of fucking random Asian countries and little podunk karaoke bars, and I'm not generally uncomfortable with the environment, but I was doing this thing. I'd done it in Cyprus. We were on a boat party, so we're stuck on the boat with all of these girls for like 3-5 hours or something, and so it would start, and everybody starts to get progressively drunker and like jump off the boat and all this stuff, right? But as I walked onto the boat, I was like, oh man, like if I don't make friends now, then it's gonna be weirder later. Like 3 hours from now, I try to go talk to this random girl, and I haven't introduced myself yet, and we're on this boat, and there's a limited amount of us, and there's no way she can get away or I can get away, really. So I might as well make friends now. So I did this thing I call running the rail, which is, I think I got it from Jeff, one of my first instructors, the guy from RSD. He was like, start at one end of the bar and then just talk to everybody until you get to the end, right? And only this thing, there was a boat. And so people were sitting face to face on these seats all the way around the bow of the boat, right? And so I just started, boom, 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 and I made friends with everybody, including the bartender, and I ended up having a lot of friends in Cyprus from that trip. Every time I went back, there were people who remembered me and knew me and showed me around. It was really good. And so when I got to this club in Tel Aviv, I used the same tactic. I just started first set on the left, and I just went from to 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 keep going. And a lot of people, they were not very receptive in Israel. They were just like, okay, yeah, whatever, this fucking guy. But by the sixth or the seventh one, I was like, they could see me coming because like they saw me open and then move on to the next one, move on to the next one. I didn't skip anybody, just keep moving, keep moving. So these ones over here who actually wanted to get talked to, they saw me coming, and then when I showed up, they were receptive to me because they knew that I was just meeting people. And so the seeking out opportunities is super useful. Like you just go out and make friends, and it doesn't matter if you talk to 100 people and only 5 of them like you, right? Like you just go do it, and you only need one group really to set your spirits up and set you for sail to the next thing, because you can build off that group and introduce them to new people and create a little party and by the end of the night create a good vibe around you. Second tip, share your interests and hobbies. Most people at the bar, some of them like to talk about themselves, but most of them, you get all this advice. It's like, oh, everybody's favorite subject is themselves, so get them to talk about themselves. But that happens all the time at the bar, right? It's, oh yeah, so what do you do? So what do you... It's much more interesting to be somebody who's providing value into the interaction. So it doesn't matter how weird you are. Like if you're doing cool things, or if you have cool hobbies or whatever, or your interests, then just share them. I have this guy, he's going out doing a lot of game running things on his own, and he'll talk about the randomest shit. Like you're sitting there like, what? Why did you bring that up? It's weird. But he doesn't stop talking, and he keeps, from any angle, he'll try to talk about, oh yeah, I went to the dentist and I had all this thing, and Novocaine actually comes from this chemical compound. Like I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But like, it's more interesting than whatever these people have going on in their lives. A lot of these people who go to the bar, they have a lot of shit going on, but they lock it all away so that they can prevent a certain social mask, or present a social mask. And so they're not willing to share a whole lot. They don't want to like show interest in a whole lot. They just want to kind of look cool at the club and get drunk, and then let their inhibitions go away, and then they start to be a little bit more talkative or manipulative or whatever they're trying to do. And if you come in with something that's kind of out of their scope, something that gives them something to latch onto and is interesting, even if it's weird and out of the norm, like they're gonna pay attention to you, listen to you. You're gonna leave an impression in their brain. So if you're really excited about something, I had a buddy who was really into magic cards. Like he would play Magic the Gathering, right? And it's like super nerdy. But he would go out and he'd start talking about it, in a way that was like why he was passionate about it. And some people would listen and they'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I guess, bro, it's up to you. And then they'd feel free to relate their own hobbies and stuff. And it opened up a lot more or less judgmental space. Now, had he been talking about, super high status stuff, then perhaps he would have gotten a different result with different groups of people. But that's not the point. Just share what's going on in your life. And I have a guy who, he didn't have anything interesting going on. He would just sit at home all day, and then he would go out and like work himself up the courage to go talk to random people. And then he had nothing to talk about. So I told him, go out and find things to do. And so then he looked at the local community stuff. He looked at all the meetup groups. He looked at all the promoter groups in LA, and he started going out 5-6 days a week doing random shit. And he always had something to talk about. I did that in the beginning too. I still go out every night, but I would go out to like these interesting. I went just watched a boxcar race. Saw some people at roller derby. I fucking interviewed this guy for paintball. Like it was like, and I had all these little interesting things to say. Oh yeah, last weekend I was doing this thing. Da 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 da. And it flowed very quickly into allowing me to express my emotional response at these cool things, or new things anyway, and I could connect at a human level with those responses. Tip 3, be open and friendly. When you don't know anybody in the club, it's very difficult to give off pretense or judgment and do it well. If you don't have any status attached to you, it's really difficult to like look down your nose at people and be like, oh, I'm not really into who you are. Like, I'm cooler than that or whatever. Like, you can't really do that unless you have some social proof, you have a vibe about you that's real. Like, if you're trying to manipulate that, especially if you're new at this stuff, like, you're going to be dead in the water. So go in there with an open, friendly attitude. Like, big up everybody. Like make everybody feel special, make everybody feel important, make everybody feel that you have value to give them, and then give them that value, right? Like, don't cut anybody off or limit your options. Like, there are some people that you may not think are attractive. Talk to them anyway. There are people who think are older than you want to talk to. Talk to them anyway. There are guys, girls, mixed sets. Talk to them anyway, because what you're trying to do in the initial spot is not to isolate one random girl and like, get into a romantic relationship right away. What you're trying to do is build your social acceptance and status in the place. And by being open, friendly, empathetic on everybody, you're going to create a lot more positive responses. And then later on, if they disagree with you, you can always set and assert your boundaries and, pass tests and all that other stuff we do tactically. But in the beginning, make sure that everybody feels important, feels valued, feels validated by who you are until they cross one of your lines or they move in that direction. There are some people who just want somebody to talk to, and I start talking to them, and then they want to like lock me down for the rest of the night because I'm showing them attention. And so I got to break away from that and be like, look, man, I'm going to talk to some other people, but like, it's really good seeing you. Hit me up if you want to go do that thing we were talking about earlier. And then I like go take a piss and I move on because, I don't want to be stuck talking about stupid horseshit for all night. It doesn't mean I can't entertain them and make them feel validated for a few minutes. And I'm always a good spot in their mind as long as I, leave graciously. Tip number 4, focus on other people and not yourself. All of your fears and all of your insecurities and everything, they can come up real easy when you focus on yourself. You're like, oh yeah, but I'm not this, or I'm not that, or I'm not good enough for this, or I don't have these things, I'm not dressed this way. All that stuff can come up if you're focusing on you. Because when you run out of things to ponder, like, all of your fears can come up and then present. It's like, oh, okay, well, since you're not thinking about anything, go ahead and put this on the front burner. It's like, no, just fucking focus on other people, and then you don't have to worry about your own insecurities, really. Like, you can see, what does this person need out of the situation? What are they talking to me for? If they are talking to me, then what are they evaluating to see if I'm going to be useful in their lives? What value are they looking for? if you start asking those kind of questions, you start being externally focused on what you can kind of jump and share with and interact. And while I'm not saying like run around, I always say focus on your own motion. Something I learned from Owen. You definitely do what you want to do and move at your own purpose. But when you're going out and making social connections, you on purpose want to figure out what the other people want so you can give it to them. I mean, that's what social connections are. So focusing on others helps you clue into that and create rapport, but also it helps you stop focusing on the things that are going to make you feel like you need to close off or protect yourself, and you want to be more open, vulnerable, generative. And the more that you focus on others and what they need, and you focus more on empathy, you focus more on kindness than you do on self-protection or setting a certain status, then you're going to build much better relationships much more quickly, because people are going to trust you much faster. And tip number 5, if you need support, seek it. Find a family member. I talk about this almost every day because it's super important. Self-care and support. Like, if you got a therapist, talk to your therapist. If you got about the issues that you're having in the social space. If you got a family member that can kind of like let you dump and vent on like your communication problems, they can. I just like flipped a contact in my eye. Yeah. If you got a family member, you can talk about communication problems. Then you can. Having somebody to bounce that off of is super badass. And people who have been around a while, like, I mean, obviously if you reach out to us, like, we mentor social relationships, so we'll give you a bunch of things, strategies to try, systems to do, so that you can feel more connected and more included in the social environments that you put yourself in. But a family member you trust, a therapist, a friend that has fingers on the pulse of the social scene, they can help you out by giving you different things to think about. And different things to think about and do in the social environment, so that you feel a little bit more connected or a little bit more accepted. The point of going out and feeling like you belong is really so that you can open up. Like, at the end of the day, you don't really want to belong anywhere. Yeah, sorry, the camera was talking to me. You don't really want to belong anywhere. You want to stand out. You want to stand out as a guy or a person who has a lot of value, as a person who can make them feel good emotions. You want to stand out. You want to be different. You want to excel. And when you don't do those things, then it's difficult to. The people who really want to fit in are the ones who feel like they don't. And the people who do fit in are going to get bored and blasé and not be able to make any impact in the social scene. So I would rather stand out than fit in. But if you've never fit in, like, it's really hard to feel the acceptance that allows you to move forward and stand out. So remember that, like, when you're going out trying to fit in, you're really just trying to figure out the lay of the land so that you can create rapport, you can create trust, you can create feelings of goodwill towards you. And then once you're there, then you can continue to show more and more vulnerability and who you are, so that people who kind of vibrate at your level can latch on, and the people that don't can fuck right off. That's what I got to say about feeling like you belong in a social environment. I've got a worksheet, some journaling exercises. You click the link in the description. It takes you over there. Give me your email so I can send you new shit, and then download the worksheet and then go through it. And if you have any realizations or comments or whatever, feel free to comment here or hit me up on social media. I'm at Duke Delate, Instagram, Twitter, everything. So reach out on your favorite platform, and I'll be happy to provide any clarity that was missing from this video. I do this every damn day, so tomorrow I think we're talking about narcissism. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, stay awesome.